Hello and welcome to the Bad Guy Review, where good movies rise and bad ones burn. Happy Pride Month, everybody! Yes, it's the month of Pride, where we watch retarded, homophobic, and transphobic people will cry and moan while people like me exist. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Yeah, I would have liked to, maybe one day review a LGBTQ movie in a future Bad Guy Review video. That is, if they get rid of the homophobic people in their movies, then it could be, that I might consider. But anyways, let's get to what we're really here for. So you may all know the classic wonderful tale of the Wizard of Oz. And you would also know how much torture it was behind the scenes. But we're not here to talk about that movie. Oh no. We're here to talk about a play turned horror movie. Not horror. I meant a play turned musical movie. It would be of the same story called The Wiz. And I'll be honest, when I saw this, after I saw it, I knew I had to review this because of how weird it is. It made me think, Dylan, how the fuck can an all-black cast, musicals, and recreation of the Wizard of Oz story be weird? Somehow, they just made it weird, but it's a pretty interesting movie, to say the least. Okay? So let's get all this blabbering all out of the way, and let's dig into The Wiz and show you how absolutely it's gonna be weird. And especially for me, since, mind y'all, I have autism and sometimes some of us can be weird. But who am I to blame? So the opening begins is showing some drawings of faceless people with rainbows and buildings around them and all, and there's some soul music playing. And you may think, this ain't so bad. But then you realize who the hell is the screenplay player. The screenplayer, that's what I meant, yeah. Yes, y'all, it's the same bastard that made Batman and Robin. Yay! Okay, let's not get anxious about this movie. Let's just continue on. So we see the bustling streets of what I think is New York City, since I don't know why, because if you remember the original, Dorothy was in a farm, not a big city. So why did they change that up? I don't know. I really don't know. But anyways, we then meet our Dory, played by Diana Ross. Really? Diana Ross? Why is she in this movie? Of course, there's no one else. And of course, this plays out kind of like the original Go. Dorothy gets overused, they don't care about her. They don't treat her like a part of the family, yada yada. She has a dog named Toto. Oh yeah, blah 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 blah. All that jazz. Though during one scene, I think she does sing one song. At least I think, but oh yeah, she did. Sorry. She sang to herself, which I'm guessing is probably her version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, but I didn't bother with until we get like look. I'll be honest, y'all. As much as I do like musicals, sometimes I don't pay attention to songs, but there are songs that could be fun to listen to. You know? However, for later that night, Dorothy was talking with I think her mother or grandma, and apparently she found. And she tries convincing her to find her own place, home to live in, all since, hello people, she's a grown-ass woman living in an apartment in New York City. However, when Dorothy opens the door, Toto runs out. So, Dorothy, only wearing a coat, my add, and you're gonna remember that for later, for a minute. And then Dorothy goes out, early getting her coat on and goes out in the snow. And for some odd reason, there is a snow tornado coming her way. Now, yeah, I know that can happen to some states out there, but why here? And mind you, Dorothy was wearing only a trench coat. Not a hat, not boots, not gloves, not snow pants, just a trench coat. So, and this is, I swear to you, this is the most irritating thing for me. Because Dorothy could have been dead after this movie over a damn snow tornado. Seriously, I know I shouldn't even think about it, but god damn it, people, you know, oh, it's true. You know, Dorothy could die in that snow tornado. Moving on. So eventually, Dorothy, quote unquote, passed out, and somehow falls all the way down to the land of Oz, but for some reason, instead of like just landing on ground or like in a cushion, she just lands on a pile of what looks like either sand or rice. But then, I kid you not, and yes, I may be getting high, but I am dead serious when I say this. But next thing you know, some strange people comes out of the wall. I repeat, strange people comes out of a wall. And you can't tell, yes, this is their version of the Munchkins and the Munchkin Land. This was the fucking moment I knew I had to review this movie. And I know it could get, like, you know, and yeah, they all started surrounding Dorothy, which she was scared for her life because who wouldn't be? Like, imagine if you ended up somewhere you don't know, and the next thing you know, a bunch of black people that comes out of the wall to support your ass. Would you be weirded out? 'Cause I would. And mind you, despite they are called Munchkins, they're not even that small. Some are just like 5 foot something. At least the original had Munchkins. And then eventually we meet this movie version of Glinda the Good, who of course, like in the story, tells her that she got to go meet the Wizard of Oz to find her way back home. Oh, and blah 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 blah. And I know why you're wondering, why am I talking like that during this whole thing? Because god damn it, people, well, we've all seen the story and you know it. I'm just trying to make this under an hour, since I know people are getting tired of me being quiet from time to time during my reviews, just because I'm autistic and high. Which, I'm sorry, but I'm really, really trying, y'all. I know I'm not a very good YouTuber or video maker. Like hell, no. I think the only way I could be good at it if I just do this on my phone, which I might if I'm being honest. But hey, who knows? But also, I forgot to mention that the Munchkins and for some odd reason, it did sometimes call Glinda Miss One. I do not know why. But after they do their musical number, or their last lyric mentions that she's got to follow the yellow brick road, which Dorothy says, "I follow the yellow brick road," and then everyone loudly respond to her repeating what she just said, like she was deaf. But yeah. Anyways, eventually Dorothy gets to the yellow brick road. But I kid you not, a taxi was there. Despite there was black and white square checkers on the windows, and it just looked like it would work. It would, like she realized she could have taken it, but somehow it was off duty. What the fuck? Like, yeah, it's weird, but after the taxi leaves, Dorothy realizes Dorothy and the Munchkins are all gone. Even her and Toto to like keep on walking there, despite Dorothy did another song talking about how she will eventually get home. And eventually, shockingly, the sun rises on the land of Oz. But it shows that she's now by some what looks like buildings that are nearly destroyed. But then she stops to notice Scarecrow was messing around with the Scarecrow, played by Michael fucking Jackson. I am dead serious, y'all. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, one of the greatest singers to ever live on God's green earth, the man who fucking got his head scalped during the infamous Pepsi accident, the man who got abused by his own father because he was a dipshit, the man who carried the Jackson's vibe is playing the Scarecrow in this movie. Fun fact, I did hear he actually had a fun time there since his father, ironically, wasn't even at the set. So yeah, so back to the movie. The Scarecrows were talking about after the Scarecrow talking about how he ain't gonna get out of the little metal bar thing that is holding him in place, and even though like his arms are curved, so like he could just jump down, But then comes in a strange thing that the original Scarecrow never ever did, and that's that the Scarecrow will always pop out a piece of paper to read a quote from famous random people. Some of them can be good, but some of them can be odd to say, hey, to comfort someone, or something like that. So eventually, but this when he has the, but when and the Scarecrow politely asks them if he can come down now. The Scarecrows gave Michael reminded Michael of the 3 crow commitments that they have. Yeah, I'll get to say like. Okay, so the first one was thou shalt honor. Oh wait, hold on. Thou shalt honor. I'm trying to double read, even though it's kind of hard, but trust me. Like, not just because of the breathing towards my glasses, but because of how I'm trying to review this with my TV muted and all, but I'm doing my best. Thou shalt honor all crows, that was. Then the second one was thou shalt stop reading. I think it says something about reading all bits of papers and literatures. But then the most important one, thou shalt never ever get down off of this here pole. But then they ended up doing another song, which this song was called You Can't Win. And I'll be honest, this song is a really underrated song coming from Michael Jackson, y'all. Like, no matter if you like The Wiz or not, but if you like Michael Jackson, please give this song a listen. I promise you, it'll be good. However, by the end, Dorothy comes out high and decides to save the Scarecrow. Oh, despite, mind you, all 4 crows were human size. So they could have just pecked Dorothy or just beat her up like a bunch of assholes. And eventually Dorothy helps the Scarecrow out on getting up and walking just like the original, and like the story, of course, the Scarecrow has no brain and wants one. So Dorothy invites him to meet the wizard, which they go off and do. Sorry, that's my mom doing shit. She's fine though. And what do we think? 2 taxi cars shows up. But they're off duty again because fuck you, Dorothy! And yes, guys, you can bet it'll come back for a 3rd time. Or maybe a 4th. Anyways, so the Scarecrow actually finds the old brick road and runs off with, I kid you not, the Scarecrow was being, like he was having a time of his life. And by the Scarecrow, I mean mostly Michael. Like, hell, mind y'all, this whole story of this is literally cut from the Michael movie, which is BS because I want to see what had happened. because I think it would be fun. So as they go through the old brick road, they sing their version of Run Off to See the Wizard. But I think this song is actually called yeah, He's On Down the Road, I think. And strangely enough, they made like 4 versions. One with Dorothy and the Scarecrow, one with Dorothy and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, one with the Scarecrow, Dorothy, Tin Man, and the Lion. No, wait, I meant 3 versions, not 4. Sorry, I don't know why I say 4. I meant 3. Speaking of which eventually the Scarecrow and Dorothy ends up, oddly enough, at a carnival. Because it literally has roller coasters, animatronics, and like, it just looks like an abandoned carnival. Which, by the way, what does all of this have to do with Oz? Like, it feels like when the Wicked Witch of the West tore up the whole thing, and she just, she left ruckus all over the place here and there. Oh, and by the way, just to top this whole cherry on top of the weirdness is Dorothy does have slippers, but it's her silver high heels. Why? God knows why. I don't know why. Eventually, they then find Tin Man, who apparently couldn't move an inch due to his body becoming rusty. So, like in the original, they decided to put him with some oil, pour him with oil, which helps him move. But well, and he sings a song talking about how he doesn't have a heart and wants a heart, or blah 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 blah. You know the rest. So Dorothy invites him, and of course, as I predicted when he was going on down the road, what did he find? 3 taxi cabs. Nah, just kidding. What? Yeah, I don't think he did, but I think I might have messed up a few there. Oh yeah, there was. But of course, it was all fucking Dewey. But strangely, someone saw them going under a tunnel or something or whatever it was. But if you can't tell, y'all, yeah, it was probably it was their version of like those flying monkeys. So Dorothy, Scarecrow, and the Tin Man follow the Yellow Brick Road, which then becomes the Yellow Brick Bridge at one point. I wish I was kidding y'all, but I am dead ass not. And shockingly, they all end up at a library. At least it looks like a library, telling by how there's lions at both places, but I could be wrong if I'm being honest. If y'all know the set, comment down below and tell me what it resembles. However, strangely, one of the lions was actually looking at the 3. And once they tried getting a closer look, suddenly the statue bursts apart, and out comes an actual lion. Yeah. Who, yes, y'all, we all know him as the Cowardly Lion, but he does a musical. Well, talking about how he's brave and all, and despite he does try showing off, and he does roar in some parts of his song, he ends up not being actually scary. Because when I think when either Scarecrow or Dorothy stood up to him, and he easily got scared like that. It was just so hilarious. And then he ends up crying like a little child. But he did apologize to them when they was like, yeah, we're not gonna feel empathy for you. But of course, like in the story, he talks about how he wants courage and Dorothy invites them to meet the wizard and all. And then they all sing the song once more. Or this time in front of them was 4 taxis. And instead of just getting in there, they just hop on top of them and then just it cuts to another scene. So we don't know if they was off duty at that point or not. But they were. Fuck you, taxi people, because you just don't want to pick people up. But yeah, eventually the gang ends up going to a subway. Again, they always down to a yellow brick subway road. Why even call it the road if some of it are just floors to places? Or even a bridge or something. However, strangely, they then see somebody coming down the stairs. But wait, beforehand, and the lion actually weirdly revealed that his name was Fleetwood. Because why the fuck not? Let's make this movie even more weird than it should be. But anyway, so then we see the monkey flying, their version of the flying monkeys, which, okay, this is gonna sound so wrong, but trust me, y'all, I'm just gonna say a little bit, but they're not monkeys, but it's just someone in a suit that looks like a monkey or a crow or something. I can't tell what it mostly looks like because of how weird it looks. But strangely, he was showing that he had 2 pink marionette puppets, which eventually bounces and started growing and growing and growing and growing into giant size, and all of them just stood there looking at it like, what the fuck? And eventually, like, once they were tall, they all started running for their lives, which eventually, and stupidly enough, like, they started, splitting up and they just were, or they, or, oh my god, I'm losing track now. Sorry, but eventually the lion goes through a gate, but Dorothy, Scarecrow, and Tin Man gets shut and they couldn't open it. And the lion helps them open it despite who knows if it was locked or not. And then they all split up. However, the Scarecrow then comes face to face with some monster with trash bins. Yes, I am dead serious. The Scarecrow, being played by the King of Pop, is being attacked by monstrous trash bins. Did I forget to mention that this movie is weird shit? But then, but right by the Tin Man, and he ends up like above the Tin Man. He ends up getting attacked by wires that start electrocuting him, and the lion just simply punched the power box to stop it. But then eventually, he totally ends up running away from two more trash bin monsters. But then I kid you not, and I does mean it even if I'm high, when Dorothy tries to find the others, she watches as some of the fucking subway pole pliers that were kind of holding the whole building in place, subway in place, comes to life and tries surrounding her. And trust me, y'all, it gets more weirder from here. And you're gonna wish you were high during this shit. So eventually the lion saves Dorothy, and they all finally regroup, running out of the subway. But strangely, they then saw a building being called Poppy Loves Perfume Corporation, which, yeah, you can tell this is their version of the flower puppet that would, make them all pass out. However, unlike the original, only Dorothy and the lion, ended up like that. But strangely, instead of flowers, they used glare on them, which looked like it hypnotized them. And they both ended up going to this, those one things where it's next to a wall / windows, and you're using it to elevate yourself to a higher window or wall. And they both end up going down a pink slide that, they just stumble onto there, and then Toto, Dorothy, and the lion all pass out. Oh, well, but thankfully, they weren't dead, even though at first they thought they were, but nah, they was just asleep, like the original. Because mind you, this is a musical version of that original movie with all black hair. Characters, one of them being played by the King of Pop. Yeah, there's another musical they all eventually noticed where was that they was very close to Emerald City, which strangely enough looks like New York, with a long ass yellow brick road going everywhere around the city. Which, yes, of course, they end up on a fucking yellow brick bridge again. No, I'm not gonna call this the yellow brick road anymore. No, unless it's a fucking unless it's on a fucking ground, it's not a road. It's either a bridge or a floor. Then they end up noticing the movie's version of the Emerald City Guards, who, I kid you not, one of them has a green afro, green mustache, and green outfits. However, how did they get in? Because Dorothy had the slipper high heels. What? I know, y'all. That is so confusing. Like, did the wizard know they was coming? Did Glinda even told them or something? I don't know, but I'm gonna take a pee break, so we'll be right back. Okay, y'all, I'm back. So, they opened the gates to MOC, which, I kid you not, looked like a safe. Because it was a safe door. And shows like strange big mountains and forests that is covered in emerald. And then it shows people in what looks like a New York bank or something. And I kid you not, this song was the longest song of the movie. I'm not gonna bother talking about it because it's way too long. But strangely, during the song, they at one point turned to red, then gold, and then went right to yellow. Oh, and hang on, I'm trying to see what. And eventually, it went back to green, which, mind you, if you shift into other colors, then why call the sea Emerald City? It doesn't make sense. But eventually, Dorothy, he and others go to meet the wizard, but the guards say that only Dorothy can show up, but she tells them that she wants to speak the wizard with her friends. But then next thing you know, some curly iron looking thing starts going up to Dorothy, which apparently turned out to be a microphone. And tries to convince the Wiz to let all of them to meet the wizard, which they do, and oh Lord, I can't believe I'm saying this out, but they literally went to the elevator to meet the wizard. They went through an elevator. Mind you, this was made in 1978. The hell was we doing back in that time? god. Anyway, so we then get a look at the wizard for now, which apparently turns out to be a silver robotic black-eyed head, because, and I could tell by the afro. But it has like two bright lights that were just spotlights. And of course his nose can breathe out smoke and he could breathe fire. And boy does he scare the Jeep, but he was out of the gang. Like, it's basically Scooby-Doo level kind of scared. At least not scared enough the wrong way, but they asked him to give him like the thing they want, like the Scarecrow of Heart, or no, the Tin Man of Heart, or the Scarecrow of Brain, and the Lion Courage, and Dorothy away back home to New York. However, for the wizard, or the say ask what's in it for him, but he suggested that they should give him that they must defeat the at first he suggested the silver slippers, but Dorothy for some reason said no. And he got pretty pissy about it. And he denied granting their wishes. But he did make a compromise that unless Dorothy kills Eveline, which I kid you not, y'all, yes, that is her name. Not Elphaba, Eveline. But no, I'm not calling her that. We're calling her the Wicked Witch of the West, because that's better. Then the Wiz go offline, quote unquote. And the gang, I kid you not, stayed at Emerald City Motel. Thank God I'm wearing, thank God I'm getting high, because I would have lost my shit by then if I hadn't. But anyways, they then go like they go out of Emerald City and they ask what road do they need to go through to meet with the Wicked Witch of the West. But apparently it was through a sewer. Gross. And then it cuts to where the Wicked Witch of the West lives at. This is called Eveline's Sweet Shop, or Sweatshop. And I'm not entirely sure what it's about, but I can tell it has a lot of people working and through torture during this whole thing. And then we get our look of this movie's version of the Wicked Witch of the West after Sango. And my God, look at, you should have seen her fucking throne, y'all, because it kind of looked like a big ass toilet. Just without flushing much. And also, the Wicked Witch of the West, I'll be honest, she kind of looks like Big Worm from Friday if she ever glamored up. But yeah, so with her whip, she made sure that everyone was keep work. working. However, she then summons her versions of the flying monkeys, which, I kid you not, they are in a form of a motorcycle. What world are we living in? Because, like, how was this good in the play and in the movie? I don't know, but eventually, the monkeys find Dorothy, Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Lion. Yeah, and through what looks like a parking lot garage with an escalator somehow, but with their tunnels and all. And one by one, they each eventually gets captured, and they had to forcefully get a ride on the motorcycle. Oh wait, no, at first they did hide, but they eventually get caught. And the Wicked Witch to the Witch of the West demanded that she give her the flippers, but like in the story, she said no. And when she tries taking them off, I kid you not, it somehow electric. It somehow ride her hand. Which, yes, it is really, really weird. But then, for some odd reason, it becomes a horror movie because next thing you know, the Wicked Witch of the West made got the others tortured with the Scarecrow getting his body sawed in half. You know, he's just made out of straws and paper, might I add. The Tin Man gets flying like a pancake with like hot iron, I think. And meanwhile, the lion gets a big ass wedgie from his tail. Youch. I bet that's gotta hurt a lot. But then comes the kicker when they then bring in the dog, which finally convinced Dorothy to give her the slipper. Or since he doesn't want to see her poor dog, I'll be coming. I'm a hot dog. However, when she was about to take off the shoe, who's the Scarecrow, gestured her to the machine, to like a water machine that when you pull, it'll shoot out sprinklers and make sure the fire is gone, that kind. So Dorothy quickly goes over and pulls it, which sprays everyone all over the room, and the Wicked Witch was like in the story, was melting. But I kid you not, she melted all the way down into the freaking throne. Like, seriously, it was like a big ass toilet that just flushed. And the lid top of the throne literally closed like a fucking toilet. So eventually everyone helps the Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Tin Man get put back together again, and for some strange reason, they all shed their clothes and such. Like, they took off the masks, they took off the suits that they were forced to wear, and they show themselves this, like, like, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, it was weird. And yeah, they was all black people as well, because again, this was an all black musical movie. So eventually, after Sony saying about how they're not free, despite they're all in their fucking birthday suits, aka their undies, the game finally goes back to the wizard to let them know that they defeated the Wicked Witch of the West. However, of course, he wasn't going to give them the wishes, and they found out that he's a fraud. But he convinces them, but I think in this version he convinced them that they have, that the lion did have her, or we know, Dorothy did the musical, and then I think the wizard usually mentions how I had the 3 stuff that they needed, and Glinda coming back for one last scene. And tells them how they can get home, how Dorothy and Toto can get home, which of course they had to say there's someplace like home, like in the original. And after Dorothy say his final goodbyes to the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, he sings, instead of just saying there's someplace like home by clapping her slippers, she just sings this one last song about how there's no place like home. And shockingly, she ends up where she was last at. In the snow, still in her trench coat, and for crying out loud, she has a wow, she could die last night, no people! But the movie ends with her and Toto going home. Since there was no place like home in New York. The movie was okay, but it was very, very weird. Okay, I'm gonna have to take a breather real quick before I wrap this up because I need to wipe the glasses again, so we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So thank y'all for watching this episode, even though it was completely weird. But hey, at least, we had a little fun, and I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm gonna do for my next review. So I guess I'll just let fate decide. So thank you all for watching. Follow me on Twitter, and don't forget to like. The hell? Oh. Outside, the TV came on. The hell is this is it gonna show something?